Glad to see you guys tonight. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Bobby Brewer. I had a chance to meet you. And what we do here, it's called Compass. It is a coffee house type ministry, where we meet on Wednesday nights, predominantly for single adults in their 30s and 40s. And their goal is to make a difference in the community, to make the world a better place, and to learn how to apply the teachings of Jesus in the Bible to our lives and in our workplace, in our relationships, and so forth. So we kind of rotate topics. Right now we're in a series called Before You Say I Do. And if you guys have questions, we ask is, have you ever had any examples of the iPhone, smartphone's been making a lot of mistakes, a while back. I remember just with miscommunication in general, speaking a different language. I remember, actually, it's a couple years ago, a team that was going to Argentina with me, we were practicing our Spanish, and he sent me a text message saying, I'm at Starbucks, would you like anything? And so I responded back, I want to say, sí, por favor. My smartphone spelled it out, sí, pot flavor. To which he responded back, Pastor Bobby, right? Some of my biggest miscommunications have taken place through actually traveling internationally. I remember once I was in Cuba on a trip, and it was the very last day of the trip, and I was getting ready to get up and share, and this Cuban congregation, they wanted to bless us by singing in English, singing an English hymn to us. And the hymn was, I've got peace like a river, which came out, I've got piss like a river. Trying to keep a straight face, now I got to go up and talk from the scriptures, right? And keep a straight face without just busting out laughing. In 2007, a friend of mine, Damon Krim, who's a missionary for City of Grace down in Rio de Janeiro, we took a month off and we traveled throughout South America. And in South America, the greetings are different. And so we went through Ecuador, Paraguay, Argentina, and Brazil. And so in Paraguay, for example, you kiss each other on both sides of the cheek, male and female, right? Argentina, you only kiss on one side, male and female. Okay, Brazil, though, all right, so I'm starting to get a rhythm here, all right? Brazil, right, okay, you only kiss the women. I was kissing the men as well, as I had been, and yeah, exactly. And yeah, I know, yeah, right, he's very friendly, but not in that way, right, so yeah, so sometimes it just gets complicated. And likewise, what you're going to find out is that there's just simply some types of miscommunication where you're trying to say one thing that comes out totally different. Okay, one more. When I was in Argentina, my very first time, did a service. We're at the very end of the service, and a girl comes up to me, and she's trying to speak her English to the very best of her ability. She goes, we're all going now over to the whorehouse. It's like, hey, look, I don't know what kind of guidelines they have for AV people down here in Argentina. Where I come from, we don't go out to whorehouses, okay, after church, all right? Much less any time, all right? Because, oh no, you're going, that's where you're staying. You're staying at the whorehouse. It's like, look, I don't know what could happen there. I'm not going, much less I'm not staying overnight. Who knows what could happen, right? All right, well, in Argentina, the name for George is Jorge. Guess what the nickname is? Whore, but it's spelled Jor. All right, so miscommunication. We are not on the same page. And as you get deeper into a relationship, as you have some years, you need to learn likewise to speak the language of your spouse. Your spouse is going to have a language. Now, in the early days, in about the first 18 months, 2 years, all forms of romantic love are welcome. All of the love languages are more. It's great to have some love. All right, I've been single for a while, and I'm getting some love. It feels good. It's great. But after you've been married for about 18 months, 2 years, you'll get to a phase where you need to learn to speak their love language. There's going to be a particular way that they resonate more. Okay, so it's just going to, on a scale of 1 to 10, when you speak their language of love, it's going to be a 10 every single time. All forms of love are always going to be welcome. Right? And we want to be able to love in all the 5 different love languages, okay? But you want to learn, how does my partner, how does my spouse, how do they like to receive romantic love, okay? And so This is what we're going to take a look at tonight. It's been around for a long time. It was made popular by a counselor. His name's Gary Chapman. And some of you, I'm sure you've heard of the book, The 5 Love Languages. It's been around forever. He simply took it and kind of made it easy for all of us. All right, so that's what I'm going to walk you guys through tonight. So what you're getting tonight really is premarital counseling. Okay, the stuff you're receiving tonight is stuff I normally walk couples through once they've made that commitment. Okay, so you're going to kind of actually be ahead of the curve here, okay, going into the future. Here's what I do need to challenge you to do, and I want to ask you to do, is use these languages wisely. Okay, don't abuse what we're going to share tonight. Okay, so if you do, I pray that God will curse you. May the, as Johnny Carson would say, may the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits should you misuse it. All right? All right, so, but here we go. All right, so number one is words of affirmation. Words of affirmation. Okay, now the clue here would be, by the way, there is a slide. Can we put that slide up real quick? There is a free website you can take if you want to write this down. I think it's just like 5lovelanguages.com assessments /love. You can take it absolutely free, and you can find out what is your primary way that you like to be loved. Okay, so the first one is words of affirmation. Here would be some clues here for someone who has this particular style. They're going to be asking you some questions like, how do I look? How was the dinner? Did you like the restaurant? Do you love me? Then why do you love me? Okay, if someone's like saying these phrases a lot, more than likely their primary language of love that they like to receive love is going to be through words of affirmation. Now, when we were kids, we were taught a nursery rhyme that said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And we all know that to be a lie, right? I mean, some of my deepest wounds, in fact, have been through words that have been spoken, not actions, okay, but words that were spoken. And so this is a very dangerous one. So if you marry someone and their primary way of receiving, okay, love, romantic love, is through words of affirmation, you're in some dangerous territory here as well. You can really hurt someone very deeply, very quickly with your words, okay? Now, this is why, we want to be good stewards of our words. And this is why, likewise, you want to be mindful and respectful that some people, they just need to hear that affirmation a lot more, all right? So I'm going to give you a few examples here tonight just from my own marriage. For me, Kristen would ask the question, well, do you love me? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, after I've said it like 100 times, I honestly would think, you got it, right? I love you. I mean, I've sent cards. I don't just go around asking anyone to marry me, right? So it's not something, it's not something like, do you want tacos or burritos, right? So, but her language, of course, was that language. She needs to hear it a lot. And someone who's wired this way, they never get tired of hearing, I love you. Okay? We all need to hear it a lot, don't we? When you get married, you need to say those words a lot. I love you. Let me tell you why I love you. A person who's gifted this way, wired this way, for words of affirmation, even more so. All right? Now, the Bible has some interesting things to say about this. Proverbs 13:3 says, watch this, he who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. Proverbs 15:4, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. Proverbs 25, verse 11, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. And this is a phrase that's fallen through the cracks of time. It doesn't really mean anything to us, but basically what Solomon here is saying is that it's almost like he's describing cosmetic jewelry. A word well spoken, oh, well, that's like cosmetic jewelry made out of silver and gold. Isn't that true? Have you ever been down in the dumps and you got that right word from that right person and your spirit's instantly lifted, right? I want to encourage you as well. Let's be the kind of people that speak words of affirmation. It's easy to spread gossip. It's easy to say something negative about somebody. But I see this from God's word. It transcends, it spills over into our other relationships as well. Let's be the kind of people that we can speak the right word at the right time to encourage and lift people up. God likes to rename people. I remember a while back, there was a person that I knew. They just simply had a reputation of always coming to me, and they always had the dirt on people. And they were labelers, all right? They would label people. She's a gossip. He's a womanizer. Whatever. The list just went on. Okay, this is how she saw people. But I like, but I like the way God renames us, right? If you ever notice in the Bible, he renames Abram to Abraham. Remember Jacob? Jacob's name was Deceiver, right? And in fact, his brother Esau will even say at one point, he is well named. He is a deceiver. He's living up to his name. And there's this famous scene in Genesis where Jacob sees the stairway to heaven. Not the Led Zeppelin one, but he sees a stairway to heaven, right? And he says, I'm going to wrestle for a blessing here. I want to be blessed. And Jacob keeps insisting for this blessing. And the messenger says, what is your name, that I may bless you? And this is actually a loaded question, right? Because he had been asked this question before. What's your name? The last time, the way the story begins, he lied about who he was. I'm Esau. That's what I mean. But this time he comes forward. Yeah, I'm Jacob. Yep, I'm the liar. I'm the deceiver. I'm the tricky one. I'm the one you got to look out for. But God renames him. I'm going to name you Israel. Right? Do you see that? Peter, what was his first name? Well, Simon. But what does Jesus say? Oh, no, I'm going to call you Peter. You're the rock that I'm going to build my church upon. God always sees the best. If you marry someone, their primary language, love language, is words of affirmation, speak into their lives all the time, even more so. Guard your words carefully of what comes out. You can never take it back. You can ask for forgiveness, and they'll forgive you. But once those words are out, it's out. So let me give you some ideas on how you can use it. Thank them for specific things. Thank you for doing this. Tell them, hey, you look great in that outfit. I admired the way that you helped out at church. I appreciate what you're doing for fill in the blank. They will never cease to be, their hearts to be blessed by receiving these words of affirmation. Thank yous, cards, letters, emails, texts throughout the days. This will speak their language. Okay? I've been told, I remember seeing an interview that George Bush, the first one, when he credits a lot of his presidency to winning his first president with the fact that he wrote out all these thank you cards. He was always trying to he would send out about 10 thank you cards a day, just letting people know that he really appreciated them, that he really valued them. All right, let's take a look at the second one, which is acts of service. So acts of service, the clue here would be when they say something to you like, thank you so much for, and then fill in the blank. And they're expressing to you an act of service. Thank you for getting the car emissions tested. Thank you for whatever it could be. Okay, there could be a number of things here, but this acts of service, you'll pick up on it. Sometimes you'll notice the glass half empty here. All right, they'll say stuff like, I wish I could get some help around here. All right, do I have to do everything? All right, so as a spouse, that's kind of a clue here that their glass is kind of empty on the acts of service. Okay, but they're really blessed when you actually do something for them. Okay, so this is like the opposite end of the spectrum. You have the words of affirmation, and now you've got the acts of service. Okay, so a person who's wired with acts of service, you can tell them how much you love them and how great they are and how much you value them. And they're going to say, great, when are you going to get the sink fixed? All right? Okay, that's awesome. Okay, the trash are overflowing. All right, so look, this is just simply how they are wired, is through acts of service. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. They just simply say that actions speak louder than words. Okay, you pick this person up at the airport, oh, you've spoken their love language. Oh, you went and visited them when they were in the hospital, oh, you just spoke their love language. Oh, you helped them change a tire, you helped them decorate the house, you just spoke their love language. Okay, for me, this works really simple. And by the way, you want to use all 5 styles. Okay, you want to use all 5 languages. But for me, this could be, I know that my wife really likes to decorate at Christmas. My act of service can be bringing a tree into the house, and then getting a tree out of the house. All right? She loves to decorate and make things look beautiful, but that's an act of service, okay, that I can give to her, and I can express that to her. Hey, look, I love you. I know how important it is to you to have the home decorated nice for Christmas. Here's an act of service I can do for you. I don't really know how to decorate, all right? But I know that my wife gets great enjoyment out of it. Let me give you another one, would be antiquing for me. Look, guys, I could care less if I never saw another antique shop the rest of my life. I already know what I'm going to see, all right? You've been in one, To me, you've been into them all right? Okay, it's like, if you ever noticed that every city, I can predict every tourist trap town. You name it, Jerome, Prescott, Sedona, I know what they're going to have. There's going to be a chocolate shop, all right, someplace selling turquoise, Indian jewelry, T-shirt shop with the name of this. I mean, look, I've been to that town 100 times, even though I've never been to it. I already know what's going to be downtown. I already know it's going to be an antique shop. But it brings great joy to my wife. Okay, she'll watch shows like Pickers and, on History Channel, and she can go into an antique shop, and it brings her such joy that, guess what? It brings me joy. Okay, I don't go dragging my feet. Oh my gosh, another. No, hey, hon, I know how much it means to you. Absolutely, right? Now, the reverse here is she'll go see Green Lantern with me. She could care less what happens to Hal Jordan and Carol Ferris. Very important to me. I need to know what happens here. I need to know that Lois Lane understands. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So acts of service. You're going to have to make some sacrifices when you get married, okay? Because it brings great joy to your spouse. Now, if you don't do it, now I could just go antiquing. Find some girlfriends. I'm sure women love that kind of stuff. Go for it. Well, now we're two single people, right, living under the same roof. So you remember, God's design is to leave and to cleave, for the two to become one. So there's things I do that I don't really enjoy on a scale of 1 to 10, but I do it because I love her. You'll need to do the same thing. There'll be some things that really, that's not your thing, but you're going to do it because you love him. You're going to do it because you love her. It's an act of service. Let me show you a verse here out of the Bible. It's John chapter 13, and I'm just going to jump down to verse 3 here of John chapter 13. It says, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things to his hand, and that he had come from God, was going back to God, rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he, Jesus, poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Really interesting. There's a huge nonverbal that's taken place here. In the ancient Near East, it was the custom of the lowest person in the house, a servant, to wash the feet. Okay, that's something that if you lived in, gated community in Scottsdale, that's something that the maid would do. Okay, vacuum, do that kind of stuff, right? No one's doing it. Now, I have to imagine here, it's not in the Bible, so the Bible's here, my opinion, I have to imagine this scene. People are wondering, because it was a custom. It's kind of like, you have someone come over to your house, you kind of, hey, can I get you something to drink? Right, it's kind of like one of our customs. Hey, do you need anything? Well, their custom was, you need to get your feet washed. Okay, because you wore sandals, your feet got dirty. Okay, that was a custom. So you have to wonder, Matthew's there, I wonder who's going to do it. I'm not. I did it last time. I wonder if Andrew will do it. Peter's probably wondering, I think Judas should do it. Right? I wonder if Matthew will do it. I'm not doing it. I did it like the second time before. It's Thomas's turn. Right? Feet aren't getting washed. There's a huge nonverbal that's taking place. Okay, this is like the party's done, cups are here, plates are there, trash is overflowing. Everyone sees it, but no one's chipping in. So who does? Jesus. Jesus does the work of a slave girl. He gets down. He washes the disciples' feet. Never get to a point where you're too high and mighty to take out the trash. Right, and change the cat litter box, right, whatever it is. Have the type of spirit, have the type of attitude where you're willing to be a servant, okay, because Jesus was. Jesus even says in Matthew 25, he goes, a cup of water, if it's given in my name, it's got a reward. That means the right attitude, though. If it's done in my name, it's got a reward to it. All right, so I always like to remind Brent, a chair stacked in Jesus' name, it's got a reward to it. Tell Barbara, some plates set out, some food set out, somebody had to do it. They didn't just magically appear. It's got a reward to it if it's done in Jesus' name. Same thing with you in your marriages. There'll be times where you're tired. The last thing I want to do right now, look, I've been working all day. The last thing I want to do is put away these dishes. But I know it's going to bless my spouse. I'm going to get down and wash the disciples' feet by putting away some dishes. Right? It's an act of service. Third one is gift giving. Okay, here's a clue for these people. If you hear someone saying, did you bring me anything? They're probably their love languages. They like to receive gifts, all right? So don't we all, all right? But this really speaks to them, okay? Now, the reason it really speaks to them is because it's showing, oh, you thought of me while you were away. Oh, you went there and you brought this back for me. I was on your mind. This is why it's so special to them, okay? Not that they're materialistic or anything. They're just wired. God speaks to them. You will melt their heart. If their language is receiving gifts, you bring them a gift, you thought about them, that you put some effort into it, oh, that's going to bless them. Okay? It doesn't even have to really be expensive. It just needs to show, you were on my heart. I thought you would like this, right? You're speaking their language. Now, the Bible says this, Matthew 2, verse 11 says, then, opening their treasures, this is talking about the wise men, this is a Christmas story. Then, watch, opening what? Their treasures. Okay? They offered him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This is what will make them feel the most loved, is to receive a gift. And it communicates, they thought about me. Okay, so it can be a rose, it can be a card, it can be some senseless item that maybe it's like an inside joke between the two of you. But if their love language is that of receiving gifts, on a scale of 1 to 10, you'll knock it out of the park, if that's their language. Okay. Again, back to the scriptures here, this time in John chapter 12. I'm going to start at verse 3. It says, Mary took watch this, a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. A pound? And by the way, you couldn't just go to Dollar Tree or Walgreens and pick up some Old Spice. Okay, most of it came from India. Okay, so there's a tariff, I mean, it's expensive, plus it's a pound. Like I'm thinking even a pound of Old Spice would be pretty expensive. I don't know, like what, $50 or something, I don't know. But this is a pound of what? Of expensive. And what does she do? According to the Synoptic Gospels, she anoints his head and his feet. Gift giving, to show value. I mean, guys, seriously, just poured it out. Someone had to buy it. Somehow she had acquired this perfume, right? I mean, again, it didn't just magically show up. Now, here's a way that you can use this gift. This one is just to begin to be an observer. Find out, hey, there are some of their styles. Find out some of the things they like, some things they don't like. Begin to find out how they're wired, what seems to be special to them. And as you're out and about, you'll begin to see things. God will even remind you, I believe, of things that seem to be special to them, right? Let me really encourage you, if you're a guy, to gift wrap it. All right, you'll get extra bonus points for gift wrapping, okay? Now, we as men, we give stuff to people just like in bags, like in the same Walgreens bag. Here you go, dude. Happy birthday, Holmes, all right? Just hand it to him in a bag, all right? When you're a dude-to-dude present, you can do that, get away with it, right? But for a woman, normally, guys, you'll get some extra points if it's actually gift wrapped, even if it's not the best job, right? It's like, oh, wow, you actually went out and you thought about me, you bought this, and you put the time and effort into gift wrapping it. Yeah, gift bag is really easy. So, yeah. So, do you see what's happening here, though? It's like you thought about me. You went through some time and effort for me. This is why a gift card, I like gift cards, but normally they're not quite as romantic, are they? Right, yeah. See, women unanimously shout out no, almost like saying amen. All right, so guys, did you hear that? Like, well, I gave you a gift certificate to Red Lobster. What more could you want? All right, it's 25 spot even. You can get a shrimp cocktail also if you want, right? So, but no, not quite the same, is it? So this is how that language works. Now, on the flip side, if this is your language, you marry someone, when you get married, your language is gift giving. Let me encourage you, be gracious, okay, when they try to love you in their particular language, okay? Your language, you like to receive gifts, just give them some grace, all right? They're trying, they're going to do they won't always get it down perfect. Just acknowledge, appreciate the fact, hey, thank you so much for thinking on me. Thank you, all right? Be gracious. And as God gives you the right opportunity, say, yeah, really, that's not my style, but hey, thank you for thinking on me. That was really sweet. That was really kind, all right? Okay, let's go to the next one. Number 4 is quality time. And here the clue would be, if you hear people saying something like, I really wish we could spend some time together. Well, we just watched a movie. I mean, what more do you want? All right. Okay. Quality is the key ingredient here. Okay. Quality time. All right. So actually, I don't really recommend dates actually for dating. I don't recommend movies for dating because you're spending time just looking at a screen for maybe 2 to 3 hours. Okay. And so someone who wants quality time, here's what they're looking for. Their language is spending time with me. I want time for we're always doing stuff together with other people. We're always in crowds. I want your undivided attention. I want eye-to-eye contact. I want the iPhone down. I want the computer off. I want to go for a walk. Anything, okay? You will speak their language by giving them that undivided attention. If their love language is time, right? And this is why sometimes relationships will fizzle really quickly, okay? Because you're spending time together, but maybe it's not exactly that quality time, right? So, again, in the Bible, we see things like this. Genesis 3:7, God comes looking, right? Adam and Eve, they fall, okay? God comes looking. Genesis 3:7, where are you? Where are you? You hear that longing in God's heart. I want to be with you, right? Where are you? Where'd you go? See, we're created in the image of God. God's an emotive being. In the desert, they built a thing called a tabernacle. God's wanting to remind them, hey, I'm here with you. I'm in. Right? They get to Jerusalem. They finally construct a temple. Hey, I'm here. Hey, don't forget, I'm here. I'm with you. I'm with you through thick and thin. Right? God's remind them. Look, Jesus, it's kind of interesting there. Matthew 26, verse 40. It's the night before he was crucified. He says something that's kind of interesting. It's kind of heartbreaking. Goes, Matthew 26, 40. Couldn't you watch with me in prayer for 1 hour? Right? So I've shared this story before, and I apologize for repetition, but this bleeds over into other relationships. With me, my dad, for example, his way of showing love was through gift giving. Okay? The way I like to receive love was through time. Okay, so I'm not serious. I don't need therapy or anything. It's all cool. But so I often got like the very best. I almost never got department store brand bikes, tennis rackets. I got the best. Okay, I got the best of tennis rackets. But what I really would have liked back then was for my dad to come and watch me play tennis. Hey, just come and be with me and watch. That's what I really wanted. You see how this works? So it can bleed over into other relationships as well, obviously. These languages, they filter through this. It's going to explain some of your work relationships. It's going to explain some of your family relationships. If you can discover, hey, what's the way they really like to receive love? Okay, well, then you can begin to, you won't have those issues like I had in South America, all right? You won't be miscommunicating because you're trying, right? You want to love them, okay? So you just want to make sure you're speaking their language, okay? That'll help give a solid, secure foundation, okay, to your relationship. Okay, so here, quality time. Friends talk, friends listen, friends spend time together, but it doesn't happen by accident, does it? And what you'll notice is in the business of life, next thing you can notice, you're just two single people with wedding bands on, living under the same roof. If their predominant way of receiving love is through quality time, okay, and you think quality time, is watching TV together. Okay, no, I want to actually talk. I want to do something that's just the two of us. Okay, to them, you can even just simply ask the question, hey, could you define for me, paint me a picture, what does quality time look like to you? Just simply ask, right, and then just listen to hear what they have to say. So let's do the last one here. The fifth one, this is normally everyone's favorite, physical touch. Okay, so this is the touchy-feely types, all right? It's how God's wired them, all right? So they really like to express, receive love through physical touch. Now, there is some research actually that shows that babies who've been cuddled, okay, they seem to do better actually than those who are like ignored. Okay, so physical touch does indeed seem to be a language that also it overlaps, it spills over. Okay, and so I was thinking about this with this passage. It's in Mark chapter 1, verses 40 through 42. And it says, and a leper came to him, Jesus, imploring him and kneeling to him, saying, if you will, you can make me clean. Interesting, it says clean, doesn't say to be healed. To be unclean meant you couldn't go to the synagogue. You had to keep a distance. Okay, in fact, if you had leprosy, it was 50 paces. Okay, so look, here's 1 pace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get an idea. That's a pretty dramatic distance, isn't it? If you had to keep 50 paces if you were a leper. So he comes in, he asks, I want to be clean, meaning I want to be social again. I want people to be able to touch me. I want to be able to touch people. I want to be able to fellowship. I don't want to keep this huge boundary that I have. And Jesus says in verse 41, moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I will be clean. And immediately the leprosy left him. He was made clean. Stretched out his hand and touched him. Now, in the Levitical system, this means that now Jesus is what? Unclean. Okay, according to the Levitical, now Jesus, by definition, wouldn't be able to go to the synagogue. Okay, but what does Jesus do? Reach out and touch him, right? Peter's mother-in-law said, we're told that she had a fever. Matthew 8, verse 15, it says, and he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she arose and ministered to him. Now, there was this teaching by the rabbis at the time that you should never touch a woman. The idea was that if you touched a woman, suddenly they would just like lose control of themselves, start taking off their clothes, all right? And you didn't want that to happen. It's kind of like a deodorant commercial, right? I mean, if you ever seen these ads before, right? If you wear, I don't know, Axe or something like that, apparently if women just catch a whiff of a certain smell, they lose all their sexual inhibition and start taking off their clothes, right? Well, it was sort of that idea. That was one. There was another idea, hey, if it's that particular time in a month, you touch her, also, you can't go to synagogue. But what does Jesus do? Reached out and touched her hand. All right, so see, Jesus turns everything upside down. See, Jesus is pro-people. And in Luke chapter 8, verse 45, a woman who had been hemorrhaging for 12 years, she somehow reaches out, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be healed. And she does. And Jesus knows he's been touched in a special way. And he says, who touched me? And you have to think that his disciples were wondering, are you pulling a joke here? I mean, there's crowds pressing in. How can we possibly know? So someone touched me in a special way. Someone touched me just now with hope and with faith and said Jesus wants her to go public, okay, with her hope and with her faith. I made a few notes here. Just think about this. A touch, it communicates acceptance, doesn't it? Right? Just a hug, a touch communicates acceptance. It can communicate value, right? You've heard the term cold shoulder. You're avoiding a person at all costs because, yeah, I'm going to make a point, I'll show them. But a touch melts that cold shoulder, doesn't it? It communicates security and assurance. I've noticed that a touch can communicate an apology. You know, sometimes it's just been me just grabbing my wife's hand, hey, you know, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I'm sorry about that. Right? Communicates an apology. It can communicate sorrow for another person who's going through a tough time. Touch can, in many ways, it just simply says, thank you. I acknowledge you. You're special to me. I care about you. Right? So how do you use this one? Well, reach out and touch someone. Obviously, specifically your spouse. Right? So we're talking about premarital counseling here. So some people, if they're wired this way for physical touch, you can write all the cards and letters. That'll be great. That's beautiful. You should do that. But it's that touch. It's that physical touch that really, no, you just spoke the language of my heart. Just know if that's your language. Again, I think these can and should spill over into all of our relationships to some degree, right? You want to be a good steward of it, and it's something that you don't want to abuse as well, right? So here's my conclusion for this, and I want to take some of your text questions, is use all five, okay? Use all five of these languages. Again, in the first 18 months, first 2 years of your relationship, all languages are more than welcome, okay? But you're going to get to a point where when you get in this second stage of romantic love, if you can learn to be an expert, become an expert in how your spouse likes to receive love, oh, well, that will really do wonders for your relationship. And here's what you need to be mindful of. It's the way that you like to receive love. It's not necessarily mean it's the way that you, by default, give love. You may be, you like to receive gifts. That doesn't necessarily mean, oh, okay, I'll just give them gifts too. By default, that's what we think. So you see, this is where sometimes the rub comes or the tension comes in a marriage relationships. Oh, I like receiving gifts, so she should like receiving gifts. But what if she's wired a different way? Right? So that's what you can learn, and that's some of the stuff that you'll get in pre-marriage counseling. We got just
power of words, it's the power of language. Okay, and so I just want to encourage you and exhort you, in fact, learn what your love language is. Okay, so you can one day explain that to your spouse, hey, this is the way that most resonates with my soul. And likewise, become a student of your spouse and find out how do they best receive, what best resonates with their soul in the way that they like to receive love. And this will take you far and deep, into your relationship. And this will build a solid foundation for you.
Can I just share a quick story? I first heard about this book 14 years ago. I was driving out west and had a lot of time. So I got to hear the whole contents of this book on a radio show. And as I was kind of pondering and I was trying to put my family into these, what's their love language. And my relationship with my baby sister has been strained my whole life. And as I was listening to it, I realized that she was saying, can I borrow this? Can I have this? Did you bring me something? And I was like, oh, I think hers is gift giving. And so that Christmas, I had already decided I was kind of on a tight budget, being a college student, and had set aside a certain amount of money for everybody, the same amount of money. But for my sister, I went out and bought a bunch of little things. Like I think I bought my one sister a sweater, and then for her I got, a little lotion and a little, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And that Christmas, she came up to me, and now she was like a junior in high school, so, wacky anyway. And she said, you really do love me.
Wow.
And to be
insightful.
That powerful of a thing, to learn this and grasp it, it carries through not just with a romantic relationship, but
Yeah, it takes a little bit more work, especially if it's not your nature, especially if you're used to giving love in one certain way. You discover that your spouse preserves to receive it this way. It'll just take a little bit more work, but it'll happen. So, all right, a few questions here.
I'm getting serious in an online relationship, and we're hoping to meet soon. Do you have any advice?
Well, it's good at your meeting. Okay, so for any online relationship, I recommend that you meet ASAP, as soon as possible. See if you still have that chemistry once you actually meet. So that would be some primary advice. See, is there any, is there a true love connection here as a result versus the online? Some things you would need to think about is you need to see where's that road going to take us. Okay, so it's online, so I'm presuming obviously this means they're out of state or something, out of city. So who's moving where? Okay, so you need to begin to start thinking about some of those type of issues. Okay, so where are we going to live? If not, it ends up just becoming like a fantasy. Okay, to some degree. So that would be one to talk about. What are your dreams? Where do we hope to be? Begin to talk about the children. Do we want to have kids or not? And so forth. Are there any significant debts? Okay, all the hard questions you need to talk about in a pre-marriage relationship. So begin to talk about those harder issues. Okay, career. Is it a blended family? Okay, that's going to be a different facet to it. Okay, is there previous marriages in the past, or are there kids from all that? So those you'd really want to capitalize on that time. Okay. Otherwise, you could just be fueling something that's really just a fantasy. It's never going to amount to something. So you want to actually talk about the hard stuff when you meet. Okay. You may not see eye to eye, but you at least want to see, can we come to some conclusion here as to how we can actually move forward with this, right?
Is it a deal breaker if their parents don't accept you?
I don't think so. It would depend why. I mean, we all come from some form of a dysfunctional family, right? And so it would depend on the nature of why and how close they are, how involved they're going to be in your relationship. I mean, if you're all living in the same town, right, if you plan on moving in with them, which I don't recommend, right, it's leave and cleave. Yeah, it could be a huge problem, right, obviously. But to me, no, it's not a deal breaker necessarily. What I would encourage you, though, is I would want to know why, okay? And then here's the hard part. The Bible says there's safety in a multitude of counselors. What are some of your closest friends who are objective, okay, who are a true friend, sticks closer than a brother, a true friend? The Bible even says the wounds of a friend are faithful. They're wounds. It means that, it hurt, but it's faithful. So what are some of your closest friends say? What does your pastor say? Is anyone else that knows them? Perhaps that's how I think there could be some safeguards there. Is that everyone's saying, oh, no, then that's probably the Lord trying to speak to you through a variety of different ways.
You once shared that the divorce rate is about 65% for second marriages. Why is that, and what can be done about it?
Yeah, it's two things. One, it goes back to the blended family factor. Okay, so you have to really get, I would say, specific pre-marriage counseling. If you marry someone that's got kids, they're still under the roof. Okay, so if they're still living with you, then that's going to be a factor. It's redeemable. People work through it all the time. What they don't do is they didn't do it in the pre-marriage counseling. Okay, so now you're an instant husband and you're an instant father. Okay, and maybe really you'd only sign up for being an instant husband. Okay, but the truth of the matter, you're also instant father. So there's some specific blended counseling, blended family counseling that you should get that would really, I think, decrease that number. And the second one is one that you guys are getting tired of hearing me say, and that's just simply the fact that play by the rules. Okay, when you're in your 30s and your 40s, you think, oh, I know what I want. I don't really have to, do this dating thing. This is the person of my dreams. Now, give it some time still, right? And do all the hard work still of just getting to know someone and building a friendship as well. That will really help you.
Now, does a relationship have a better chance if both people have a similar love language?
It makes it easier. Absolutely. I don't want to answer because I don't really know the stats on that, but what I do know is it just simply makes it a whole lot easier if that's the way you both give and receive. So.
Sorry, my smartphone's being dumb.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're actually about out of time anyway.
I'm going to give you one more.
All right, we'll take one more.
Okay. Is too much physical affection, not sex, bad for a relationship?
As long as you can honor your boundaries, I think you'll be okay. Like I know, Christianity is just kind of awkward at times because there's all these like rules, if you will, right? And what I've learned is there's normally a story behind every rule, all right? And so, for example, I know some couples, they won't kiss whatsoever. We kissed, right? We were able to stay pure, right? Now, what we did find out was like, whoa, it kind of went a little longer than what I was expecting, right? And then you feel kind of like the guilt factor, like kind of like go right up to the line and didn't go over, but went right up to the line nonetheless. And we both felt awkward afterwards and so forth. So we just kind of it sounds like really stupid and corny. It sounds straight out of junior high. We just made some simple rules to keep ourselves safe. Okay, so we decided not to French kiss. All right, again, you need to sit in the Bible. This is just for us. All right, when we were dating, I was engaged for 11 months, which I don't recommend. All right, so it was hard to stay pure. All right, but we did. And I can stand before you and say we stayed pure. It wasn't easy, but what helped us was we just had some simple guidelines. All right, so I chose, look, I am not staying over here no matter what, even though we're getting up in the morning at 7 a.m. to go hiking. I'm driving home. All right, it's stupid, but I want to do what was smart. Okay, there's what's smart and then there's what's right. I'm just going to do what's right. Yeah, it's much more practical. It'll be so much easier. Sleep on it. Just had some guidelines like that. I chose, I'm not going into the bedroom. Again, I know it sounds like I'm legalistic, but I'm not going into the bedroom. Because there's a bed there, all right? And I know what I want to happen on that bed, all right? I'm not going in that bedroom. Again, I know it sounds cheesy to you guys, all right? But I want to be a man of character. I want to be a gentleman. And I want to be able to now, 18 years later, say, I was pure in my relationship with Kristen. I was able to stay pure during that season, okay? So just talk about it amongst yourselves. Decide, hey, you have to be honest, right? Now, what will happen is I noticed that after I had our talk with Chris, like, hey, this is a little too much for me. I don't trust myself. I don't trust my hormones. There was like felt a little bit of a distance, okay, initially, all right? But then I just like reassured, hey, look, I love you. I want to be with you. You're the one for me. And says, I can't kiss that long, as much as I would like to. All right, so discuss it among yourselves once you get to that stage, all right? And I think each couple is kind of unique. Obviously, there are some very blatantly obvious things you shouldn't do, but all this other stuff, I think that's going to be couple-specific, okay, for you. Just be honest with yourself. So we're done for tonight. We'll end on that note, which is awesome. But what we'd like for you guys to do is to, you know what? Go ahead and lay one on her. See what happens. No, I'm just kidding. Let me encourage you to get in groups about 3 to 4. What we like to do is take prayer requests, right? Take prayer requests. We call it a night. We've got some dessert for you. And there's a group of us that will go out to Coffee Plantation here shortly and just hang out a little bit more. I hope you will join us there. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you later.